Hi, this one is a training video on the introduction to quality assurance careers um, and kind of how it can branch off into other areas of a career path. Um, First, I wanted to make sure that you see this lecture by Marc at Michigan University talking about the Washington, D.C. and Flint water crisis. Go ahead and watch it if you haven't. Thank you. Now, moving on. What I want to talk about is quality assurance, and I kind of drew up this for somebody that works at the same building as I do that's thinking about moving into a career in quality assurance, at least most likely software quality assurance. And I have a friend that I'm trying to get trained to get into the quality assurance industry. Um, the reason why is well, multiple reasons. One, you can make some good money at it, and two, um, we need quality engineers. Um, if you have a product, the quality assurance testing is going to be the last thing that's focused on. It's the one place where the company's not going to spend a lot of money on. You're not going to have a big budget. When something goes wrong, who gets blamed? It's quality assurance, but it's not really quality assurance's fault. It's you have um, a lot of accountability, but if you've done everything right, they can't blame you, and that's where the blame usually goes to. But you're gonna find quality assurance to have many problems. You're gonna have the first few years as a quality assurance engineer are gonna be boring because you don't have enough experience. You're just gonna be given test cases to execute. Basically, you're just following instructions. Once you get higher up, you can start planning and strategizing and making things more efficient, coming up with automation scripts or testing the back end database, things like that. So I kind of don't want to focus on the details too much. I just kind of want to give a broad information as whether it works for you. Um, so if you don't know what quality assurance is, it's really pretty basic. You can see, you could do Google search what quality assurance is, and you can see what software quality assurance is. Um, and you can see how much a quality assurance person will make. Now, when I talk about something, I don't, I would love to spend more time in creating diagrams and making it look better, but one, I don't have that much time. I don't want to spend 2 hours prepping for something and then talking about it for 15 minutes when I already discussed it with someone else. So you're going to see a lot of these live recordings that aren't edited, and you're just going to have to bear with me. You can always fast forward if something gets too dry. So the first thing I want to focus on is when you start off, you're not going to have any experience. Companies won't expect you to have experience. Some companies will just want manual testers, and that means you're going to be told what to do by someone who has more experience. And you're going to be making easily a contract amount. Most QA engineers start off as working as like a 6 month to 9 month contract. You're going to make minimum wage to maybe upwards of $19 an hour as a junior QA engineer these days. And usually it's 1 to 2 years of experience. So once you get past the 2 years, you're going to start making, you're going to have mid-level QA experience. Not always. There's some people who may take longer because it's just the situation they're in. They just don't have enough experience. They just don't expand upon a lot of QA methodologies and how QA testing works. How, maybe it's a lot different. Maybe they learned from someone that didn't really know what they were doing. They may have learned bad habits, etc. So you don't want to make sure you go into that step. Um, Eventually, I will probably talk about a couple books where you can expand your knowledge on software testing practices and methodologies and things like that. But I just kind of want to give a brief, broad overview. Well, the first thing is, where can you learn quality assurance testing? Well, that's the trick. There are no university degrees of quality assurance. I mean, you can take classes um, for development. You can take classes for SQL database administration, things like that. Really, nothing there for quality assurance. Uh, Most quality assurance testers don't really need a college degree. Once you get up into maybe senior level or lead or manager, you may they may want you to have a college degree, usually a computer science degree. Um, if you haven't listened to any of my videos before, no, I don't have a college degree. All I have is a high school diploma. So I got by, and I'm making probably near the top end of what a software quality assurance manager would make. See, I'm the senior manager at the company I work for. So how did I get there? And that's what I'm going to tell you. And why do I like doing what I'm doing? And I'll talk about that. So now, since you don't have a university to go to learn about quality assurance testing, you're going to have to do a lot of learning on your own. You're going to have to learn by experience. You're going to have to actually make mistakes. So when you go into a job for quality assurance testing, it may be difficult for you to find a job. The best way to do it is to beta test. And beta testing is just basically free testing that a company wants people to participate in. That way they get more feedback and data, and they might find bugs that they might not have found otherwise because maybe their quality assurance testing team is too small, and there's just a lot of things they can't cover, so they just want people to explore on their own, find issues, or maybe they find issues and they have logs that might find errors or things like warnings or whatever. So that helps to test a lot of things that they may not test themselves. The only problem is you won't get paid. Two, you can work small contracts and learn that way, and that's usually good because you can get paid a lot better. The Another thing is internship. You can do an internship. Sometimes they're not paid. Sometimes you may not get paid much. Sometimes you will get paid. But it's also a good way to work at bigger companies or more well-renowned companies, just get some experience. That way you can find a better job, a good company that's looking for that type of experience where you don't have any. Let's see. So you can work as a direct hire. Sometimes companies will just hire manual testers. You'll work there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you go up the normal ladder. Now, when you work I would probably say work contracts. The reason why is you actually get a lot more money, a way to go up in your pay. Because if you just get hired, you're kind of stuck at that low level salary. So imagine you get hired as QA engineer, you're making $20,000 an hour. A 3% raise for $20,000 isn't much. But if you work an hourly contract, you may start at $12 an hour, and then you work your way up to 15 after just one 6 to 9 month contract. So if you kind of look a little bit into details, I started off my software quality assurance career at Microsoft and playtesting video games. I started off making, I think, like $10 an hour, and then I got up to $12 an hour in the next one. I worked a side contract at AT&T, Singular Wireless, and they paid me $14 an hour plus. There was a lot of overtime, and I took more of a lead position, which was funny because the AT&T sent me over to kind of work on the bottlenecks of QA to the software company. So the software company thought I was an AT&T like employee. They didn't know that I was a contract until my contract ran out, and I was doing a lot of things that someone knowledgeable about technology would understand. So I had my own huge office because they thought I was like a lead at least at AT&T, and it was great. It was in Bellevue, and I made a lot of suggestions. They listened to my suggestions, and they were going, "Wow, that's great. We're glad you're here." And then my contract was up, and they're like, "Wow, well, you're just a contractor. You only have like 2 years experience. Holy smokes!" So it was good for me to hear feedback on that. So you get good experience at seeing how other people operate, other companies operate, how their quality assurance department operates. Now, when you also work contracting, sometimes you have different vendors, different contracting agencies. Um, for example, at Microsoft, they had three different vendors. So basically, you have a contract with them for you to work at Microsoft. And the reason Microsoft did this is because they don't want, they had a law, a state law or something where if employees are hired for the full year, you have to provide benefits to them. They didn't want to do that, so they made sure that contracts for people who weren't direct hires only worked like 6 to 9 months. So uh, after your contract's up, you can't work another contract. So they have contracting agencies where you work through them, you get paid by them, your benefits are given from them, um, and it's just a way for Microsoft to have saved money. Now, what I did when I figured this out, and with the help of my brother, is um, I worked at Volt. I believe that was one of the agencies. And so when I wanted a new contract, my hourly rate was $14 because of AT&T, my short contract there. And so they're going to say, okay, actually, you're not going to, we'll start you off at $12 an hour because that was your last contract pay. And I was like, but I just made $14 an hour at AT&T. And they go, no, well, this is Microsoft. So I go, well, that stinks. So I went to Excel Data and I said, hey, I worked for, at AT&T. This is, all this feedback that I provided them was looking good. And I said, look, Volt wants to pay me $12 an hour again, but you can have me if you can, I'm expecting 14. And they go, okay, well, you know what? Actually, we'll give you $15 an hour if you do the contract with us. And I'm like, all right, that's awesome. So I go back to Volt, and they go, and I go, well, Excel Data wants the contract to pay me $15 an hour, so I'm just gonna go with them. So Volt goes, no, 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 no. We'll give you $17 an hour. I'm like, okay, let me get back to you. So I go to Excel Data and say, they're paying me $17 an hour. I've worked with them before. I think I'm just gonna stay with them. And so they go, okay, this is our final offer is $19 an hour. And I'm like, all right. See how that worked? So with only um, 3 contracts, so maybe about two years of experience. I was still junior QA. I went from working for $10 an hour to making $19 and a half dollars, I think was what I made, dollars an hour within span 2 years. So that increase in pay was very sizable, as opposed to if I was hired making $20,000 a year. 3% raise for $20,000 is a very small amount. So a good way to start if you get paid is to work small hourly contracts. So then I started kind of taking a break, doing other things. I couldn't get contracts. I actually got fired once. That's a long story, another story, but at Microsoft. and it was dumb, but I did get hired back for a different type of position, which was a lot better. So I started learning a lot more things, uh, SQL, um, reporting services, some automation stuff. Uh, I already knew a lot of hardware experience because I was building my own computers. I learned a lot more about networking, uh, and so my knowledge just kept going up and up. So when I eventually left and moved to Boston, uh, I had all this experience. It was maybe just 3 years experience in quality assurance, and so I only had $500. I told this story before, so I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have family. I didn't have a place to stay, so I just kept going to the library to find jobs. And then this recruiter actually found me a job at Framingham, and the hourly rate was 72. Not hourly rate. The the full time position was stock options, and the base salary was $72,000 a year. I think initially it was at $62,000 a year, but then I haggled my way up to $72,000 a year. So that was good until they ran out of funding. So 6 months later goes by, and I'm not working there because no one's getting paid. So I keep looking for other jobs, and then I work another small contract job as like a DBA admin. I have experience in that, and it was a good amount. So the pay was maybe $40 an hour, I believe, $45 an hour, and that's based off of my $72,000 base salary that I was making. So they're always going back to what you were making before, so what your current rate is. So that's how you kind of go up. Now there's a breakoff point. After 5 years, um, that once before you make your senior level, um, you've got a choice. You either keep going in the QA field, or you branch off into something you might want to do instead. So, for example, some people they're mid-level QA engineers. They're gonna move on to being database admins. Why? Because they make more money out of it with less experience. So if you switch as a mid-level QA engineer that makes, say, $75,000 a year, uh, they could be a junior admin, database admin for $60,000 a year. So you don't want to wait 5 years and then switch to a DBA. You might want to do like once you've got 2 to 3 years experience and you have some database knowledge, switch to being a database admin. You're probably gonna make a lot more starting off. Now after 2 years experience as database admin, your pay jumps. So when you're a mid-level database administrator, you're making like $75,000 to $110,000. 2 to 5 years experience is all you need, because there's a shortage of them. It's a good uh, good profession to go into, even if you don't like it. And there are some people that really like it. I like it. It's fun. I don't know if I'd want to stop doing what I'm doing just to be a database administrator, but if you like working with data, you like analyzing, you like speeding up data collection, things like that, that's a good way to go. Um, so that's a choice. And um, if you want to start making money faster, it's better than working 10 years and getting the paid amount like a database administrator would be making. So you're making the same amount in a different profession with like half the amount of time spent with experience. The only problem is database administration. There are courses, there are certifications, so some companies may want you to have them. So you may have to go back to school for that. Now that brings me to being a developer. Some people find that they don't like all the documentation that they have to write up as being a mid-level QA engineer, with like writing up test cases and things like that. Sometimes they may even have to write up test plans. or they find it boring and monotonous doing the same thing. So they may want to branch off into programming. And as far as programming goes, you don't make that much money starting off. You make a decent amount, but that jump when you get that experience of like 2 to 5 years, you're going to be making as much as someone who's a senior level quality assurance engineer. And then once you make it to a senior level developer, you're making like upwards of 160,000 or even more, just because there's shortage of really experienced developers that can create things that companies want them to create. And it's also expected that they have a degree, a college degree, mostly computer sciences, something like that. So that's an option that you can go to once you get enough experience. And when you're a developer, I know a lot of developers. They don't have a lot of database administration knowledge. They don't have understand how QA works. Sometimes they work for a company that has no quality assurance engineers or a department for that, so they do their own testing. So uh, that's uh, that's kind of a career path, how it can branch out. You don't have to stay in quality assurance, but you learn enough things where if you do want to um, excel and build a career path in technology, it's a great starting point because you don't need a college degree because there are no courses for them. And once you get to the senior level, you're writing test plans, you're writing test cases, kind of some examples. It's more of a lot of formalities as far as in the past, because quality assurance, you know, uh, happened back in the 80s when software's programs were starting to get big, and the practices have kind of never really upgraded to a new level. And my niche right now, or for the last 5 years, has been taking companies that have no quality assurance and building a department for them, or they have manual testing, but they want to start getting into automated processes, or they want to be a lot more formal um, in their quality assurance infrastructure. So I would go in, analyze what was missing, how they're doing things, how to improve things. What I learned is that companies don't really want to change. Software developers, project managers, they don't want to change how they're doing things. So what I would do is, instead of saying, hey, this is how quality assurance works, this is how it's been working, this is how these companies do it, but then, what a huge corporation like Microsoft does or Google is going to be a lot different than a startup that has 4 developers, 5 developers, and you're the only QA engineer. So you can't operate like how those huge corporations do. Or maybe you have a bigger company, a mid-level company that has like 100 employees, and say you've got 8 project managers and 24 developers, and you got a small QA team of 3 people. How are you gonna provide quality assurance testing for 12 different applications with 3 people? Yeah, that's a hard, difficult task, and your budget is $0, right? Um, you're gonna have to start very strategic planning of how you operate. You're going to have to investigate tools that are free and open source, or maybe they have like MSDN subscriptions if you're a Windows-based operation company. So that's what I specialized in, and uh, you can make a good amount of money because I think a lot of those companies, they hire someone to do that, and then they fail because the person that was trying to do that, it was just too formal. They didn't take quality assurance to the next level. So my ability is taking quality assurance to the next level. How can I possibly test something very huge and time consuming and do it with almost no budget, with almost no other support, and and do a good job. And so it's easy for me to find a job anywhere, any company. Once they talk with me, they understand what my knowledge base is. I'll show them all my reviews that I've had, and they're all good. And I've given them my people that they talk to references, right? And of course, my pay is great. My benefits are great. So when I'm negotiating, things only get better. But what's also another thing that you might want to do once you reach the mid-level area where you have 2 to 3 years experience, start branching off. You might want to start, if you started with contracting, you might want to start going full-time. Now, when you go full-time, what's great is to work at startups. The reason why is because the pay sometimes can be better, sometimes can be worse. Benefits can be better, sometimes worse. And they don't last long. So you're usually not fired. Your excuse is, well, the startup failed. They just didn't have enough funding. And you also learn kind of why they failed, what hardships go through with startups. You're going to work 50, 60 hours a week, and you can say that's how much time you're spending. Contract work usually is going to be 40 hours a week. There's not going to be much overtime. And it's a good way to see how a full-time position feels, whether that's something that you want to do or if you want to keep working contract. And it's just a lot of experience that you can just kind of focus what the importance is. Do you want more money? Do you want more do you want more benefits? Do you want to work? Is it okay for you to work 50, 60 hours a week because you really don't have family yet, or your family's already grown up and moved along, and you just want to save up for retirement? So hopefully this gives you an introduction to the career paths of quality assurance. As with anything for the technological field, once you reach that upper path, you're either going to start becoming an architect like me, but I'm kind of in that middle ground because I always work with the smaller companies. I'm at that QA architect / manager director level. So I still work a lot of hands-on. So once you get to the senior level area, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a lead? Do you want to work hands-on, becoming an automation engineer? Work with bigger systems, hardware, and not just the software. Do you want to just manage? Do you want to just become a director and make all the formalities and infrastructure of a quality assurance possible for a company? And then your path from there is you become like a VP, or you just start your own company, do whatever, right? It's the thing is, which I don't want to get to, is being complacent and not keep learning. And that's where the new generation, the younger generation, I'm hoping to get you on that path. Learn what I know and take it one step further. So hopefully my training videos on quality assurance will help you do that. And not only that make you happy enough to stay in the field, because there's more to just testing. There's a lot of strategic planning. There's a lot of solving problems. There's a lot of ways to make things quicker to test, easier to validate, because you're going to find less and less time and shorter amounts of time before releases, and it can drive you nuts after a while. And how much effort do you want to spend into into this field. So I'll get more into details, I'll get more into training sessions, I'll get more into specific topics. I'll even get into how to present a good resume type of things, how to negotiate salaries, all that free. This is just to help you out. I'm paying back to society, I guess. Don't pay me back, pay it forward. I want the world to be better at the things that they do. So hopefully this helps, and hopefully you tune in for my other more advanced training sessions later. Thanks.